Hello, friends. Last year at this time, as we started to make our plans for Passover, we had little or no idea what COVID-19 was or how profoundly it was going to affect our lives. Here we are, 1 year later, and while most of us are still unable to gather in person for Passover, it is a good opportunity to pause and take stock in where we are, how we have changed, what we have lost, and all the blessings that have come into our lives this year, many through the back door. Who knew that it would take a planetary pandemic to teach us about the power of presence, the simple meaning of a hug? When we gather virtually for Passover this year, I hope we will be talking about what we have learned on this journey through the narrow place, which is the literal meaning of the word Mitzrayim, Egypt. Our whole world has experienced the feeling of being constricted, fearful, in danger. In the past, during the Seder, we've often struggled to speak in a meaningful way about freedom. It was like talking about the air we breathe. It was a given. It is difficult to appreciate that which we have never been without. This year, so many freedoms we took for granted vanished in a heartbeat. There was no one to blame, though we saw ample evidence of people needing to find some solace in blame. Some politicians and other demagogues called it the Chinese virus, and there was a welling up of hatred and violence against Asians here in this country and around the world. We need to connect the dots between fear and hate and redouble our efforts to prevent people from turning their anger and helplessness against the other, whoever that other happens to be at any given time. We need to distinguish the difference between freedom and behavior that endangers others. Our tradition teaches us that freedom without responsibility is not freedom. We live among other people, and there is a responsibility to care for the rights and well-being of others, just as we need others to respect our rights and not subject us to harm through thoughtlessness or carelessness. This past week, the estate of the children's book author Dr. Seuss decided to remove six books from future printings. One of those books, If I Ran the Zoo, was one of the most memorable books of my childhood. I loved the music and playfulness of the language. For so many of us, Dr. Seuss introduced us to poetry, lush and lovely rhyme schemes, alliteration, and surprising word combinations that made us laugh out loud and feel good about our ability to turn letters and sounds into joyful play. My first response when I heard that If I Ran the Zoo would no longer be published was sadness and a sense of loss. How could something so beautiful, so stimulating, so filled with exuberance and joy be taken away from us? So I went into my garage bookcase and dug out my childhood copy of the book and opened it up. The wild and wonderful illustrations immediately brought me back to a different time. I was sitting on my mother's lap, hearing her read to me until if she happened to skip a word inadvertently, I would add the word on my own from my memory. This was before I could read, so as to honor the magic of this superb and eloquent dance of music, word, and drawings. This time, the inner warmth that I felt abruptly collided with some disturbing images. Insulting stereotypes of Black African tribesmen, negative caricatures of Chinese people with conical hats and droopy mustaches. offensive cultural tropes functioning as lackeys bearing the young protagonist, Gerald McGrew, on a large litter, looking for exotic animals to bring back to his zoo. I thought, what must it feel like for children with Black or Chinese heritage to see these images? What if there had been stereotyped images of Jews with big crooked noses, beards, and sidelocks? All the warm memories of the past were suddenly eclipsed by the unintended racist caricatures that starkly appeared in front of my eyes. Maybe some of these drawings could be reworked. Maybe the book could include a study guide explaining Seuss's unconscious portrayal of negative stereotypes. Maybe this will be considered as the Seuss estate has time to think what it wants to do with this shadow side of this great literary icon. For now, I think that stopping any further publication is the right thing to do. You may disagree with me. You may hold other positions that need to be heard. There's so much to talk about this Passover. So many important questions linger in the air, even as many of us receive the COVID vaccine and start to think about life after COVID. We need to talk about this new reality that we're going to inhabit. This is what Passover has always been about, challenging us to examine concepts and values that we cannot afford to take for granted. Freedom, liberation, concepts that enslave us, especially those that we have adopted without fully being aware of their cost. What a powerful and meaningful holiday this is for us. We hope you will join our communal Seder on Sunday evening, March 28th at 6 p.m. There will be real time for dialogue. We are actually looking for people who will serve as facilitators in our breakout rooms. Please contact me or Marc Mazer if you're interested in considering what this facilitation might look like. It promises to be a Passover like none other. We need it. We deserve it. It is ours to explore. Take care. Stay safe and be well. Shalom uvracha. Peace and blessings.